Hello. So this is Coding with WilWa. This is going to be my very first stream. The idea is I'm going to code. So what I wanted to do is get started. I have this machine. I've got Windows 10. Comes with Microsoft Edge. So we'll just go with it. So today the plan is to set up the machine to be able to get started. And the first thing we're going to need is a good text editor. You can write text in Notepad or something, but we are going to use VS Code. So I'm gonna Bing. Okay, I don't really want to. I'm gonna skip the Binging. I'm gonna use Google. I'm gonna use Google and search for VS Code. I'm kind of debating if I want to use Chrome. I usually use Chrome, but I'll kind of get into that later. No thanks. There's too much stuff to click. You're making me click. So we're off to a good start here. You can see a couple of things I would like to say is the way they've designed this page. You go here, this pops up. Okay, so I started typing VS Code and hitting search, and then I was going to go click on no thanks on that, and this had already popped up, which is just an image. So that already is not the best experience. But anyway, so I'm going to download code for Windows. Get this moving. I'm just going to save it in the usual place. Okay, the usual place is usually the downloads folder. So I'll just minimize that. I'm going to run code. Well, that's going. I also want to go to GitHub. So GitHub is a place where you can store files in what's called a repository, where the thing with Git, which I can go into more of this later too, but basically with Git, you save files to it, and then it'll save like each version of your file. So when you update the file, it actually saves what it was before you updated it, and just like the stream of updates. So you can go back to any point in history and view what all the files look like at that point. And I need to find my password, which obviously we don't want to show that. Okay, I'm gonna have to type it. I'll work on this later. Oh goodness, we're off to a good start. But yeah, that's the point of this stream, is I want to document the process of creating an application from scratch completely, like everything, like including typing my password wrong just once, thank goodness. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check on my, okay, so Visual Studio Code. We're installing that. Accept the agreement. The default place is fine. It puts it in like a personal folder, basically. Visual Studio Code, create a start menu folder, I don't want a desktop icon. I do like the Windows Explorer file context menu is this. Well, specifically it's this when you right click on a file, and then this is the directory one. And open with code is kind of nice to have there. And I'll also register as code. So register code as an editor for supported file types. That basically means different kind of code files. Like if you have a file called, I don't know, like a JavaScript file, you have a file called code.js. When you double click it right now, I'm pretty sure it's going to open in Notepad. This should change it so it'll open in code. So that's kind of the idea there. Real quick too, while I'm in there, I would also recommend you go to the view details you want to show the file name extensions. That's so much better. And the hidden items. So, but now this is .exe instead of just, ending with the 2. That comes in a lot. That comes in handy later. So I'm going to install that. Let that go to town. It's going pretty quickly to town. Okay, I'll get it back over here. So, I mean, that's just installing. I am going to create a repository. I guess I'll get into this later, but I'm going to call my repository Threfo. That's the name. Description. We'll worry about that later. It's public because I want the viewers of this stream to be able to look at it. I'm going to I'm going to add a README file because I'm going to change it. Skip the git ignore, skip the license. We'll worry about that later. So here we go. Here's Threfo on GitHub. So this link right here is that repository. Even it should work even if you're not logged in as myself. I'm going to regret doing this because now I have to sign in again. But if you go to that link, you should be able to see this. And as part of that, you'll have in here this clone with HTTPS. You can use Git or check out with SVN using the web URL. What this means is that you can grab a copy of what's in here, which is currently just readme.md using Git. And we don't have Git yet, so that's the next step. So Visual Studio Code's done. I'm not going to launch it. I just have it installed. My next step is I'm going to git Git. So I'm going to do Git. Ooh, Bing. Okay. We're gonna have to fix that. I really don't want to use Bing. Okay, so Git. So I'll go into more about this later. One really cool thing is the documentation for this, if you're interested at all. If you go to the documentation, there's an entire pro Git book that's available to read online for free. It's pretty cool if you really want to know Git. Most people don't read that, but so I'm going to do 228.0 64-bit. So that's the most recent 64-bit. This is a 64-bit machine. Most machines nowadays are, but you can go to system and it'll usually say system type 64-bit operating system, or it'll say 32-bit operating system. But for the most part, if you have 64-bit, you're better off getting the 64-bit programs, which I did for code as well. Kind of didn't talk about it, but anyway, I'm going to install Git. Okay, so Git's loading. Thank you for that. I hit next, wherever it wants to put it. Icons on the desktop, I never like that. You can do what you want. True type font, don't care. Check daily for Git for Windows updates. I do want to do that. I do like to keep things up to date. Start menu, that's fine. Okay, this is where it gets weird. So the default editor, Vim is the normal one. I do not use Vim. If you're interested in Vim, look it up. I don't have anything against it. I just don't use it. I'm going to set it up to use Visual Studio Code as Git's default editor. And you can see there's other editors that are very popular. There's Notepad++, Sublime Text, Atom. So there's a lot to choose from. But I like Code. A lot of people do. I'm not alone. And then you can use Git from the command line, use Git from Git bash only, use Git and optional Unix tools. I'm just going to go with the norm. I'm going to use the OpenSSL library. This is weird. I'll talk about this real quick. It's basically, I'm just double checking that I don't get this wrong. I'm going to do that a lot. Okay. So basically, like if I open Notepad, this is just a thing. So when you type one line and then the next line, right? What actually tells it there's a new line is different in Windows and Linux. In Windows, it actually does a carriage return. Whoops. A carriage return and a line feed. And these are usually CR and LF. In Unix, it just does line feed. So there's just that, right? So you have to kind of think about it as this is actually, there's one, and then there's whatever the character for space is, right? And then there's line, and then there's carriage return, line feed. On Unix, there's one space line feed, right? So if you save a file like this, Unix is fine with it. But if you load it up on Windows, when you load it, it won't actually load the line feed because there's only line feed. It needs the CR also, which I'll show some more of that later. If you don't totally understand that at this moment, that's fine. But this said Git will convert LF to control LF when checking out text files. When committing them, it'll convert it to LF. So that means when it stores files, it's going to store them in the Unix style. And when you go to grab them, it's going to change them all back to the Windows style, which it's the default choice that I usually just pick it, and I've never really had an issue with it. Like if I was going to really think about it, I might check out as is, commit as is, but I'm not that worried about it. And I've never really had an issue picking this. The terminal emulator, for Git Bash, I usually just leave this alone. I don't really use Git Bash. But you know, who knows? Okay, so it's usually the default behavior of git pull. By default, it will do a fast forward or merge, which is the default behavior. Or you can do a rebase or only ever fast forward. I'm gonna go with the default here and get into what that means later. I'm gonna use Git Credential Manager. Enable caching, not enable symbolic links. It's not worth the trouble. I'm not going to do that. There's a lot of choices. And here we go. We're installing Git. So we're gonna end up with a tool that makes using Git easier. But for now, I'm going to. I think I still have it. Yeah. We're just going to start with what it says so we can clone it. And that's very easy. So what I'm going to do, what I normally do is I'm going to make a folder called src for source. And then I usually make Git underneath it because there might be something other than Git that your source is in. And then I like to put, sometimes I might put GitHub here also, but I'm just going to put WilWa because that's the GitHub user that I got this from, right? And then I could Git bash here. I don't really want to do that, so I'm gonna just run a command prompt, which that might be new. So you hit the start button or type here to search, type CMD to get a command prompt. And then I need to change that directory. So you use CD to change directory. Start with the root. The slash represents the root of the drive. So that's C. I only have one drive in this machine. So then I'm going to change directory to src, and then change directory to git, and then to WilWa. Right? And if I type git, I should see there's git. I could say git help, and then it'll print out what it already printed out. But these are some things. We're actually going to use git clone a repository into a new directory. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to git clone, and then that URL that I got from GitHub. And if you use Git, this is probably extremely boring because I'm kind of going through everything here. It doesn't want to. Okay. So there you go. I have now pulled down 3FO, and all I have in it is a README, right? And I can open that with code. And that's what's in there. It just says 3FO. The Git directory that we now see because we are showing hidden items, that's just Git's working directory. That's how Git works. We don't want to, or I should say we don't need to, and we don't want to mess with that. So but now I've got this going. So what I wanted to do, so this is Visual Studio Code. I'll do that later. What I want to do first is this is readme.md. It's a markdown file. A markdown is just, it's another way, kind of like HTML, to format a document. And usually what this is when you go to a GitHub page, that's what shows up here. So I have some other ones, like that was not the right thing to click. Like if I go to just WilWa, there's my nice picture. Like programming mazes, that's a good one. I go here, and that's what I put there. Following along with mazes for programmers, the code in the book is written in Ruby. So that's a book I bought with code in Ruby, and I've been turning it into C#. It's fun, but that kind of, anyway, I'm going way down on tangent there. but this is Markdown. What I want to do is I want to get something to help me write the Markdown, because it could be a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to start with extensions. So I click this weird little icon. You know, it's like a block going into a bunch of other blocks. And I want to search for a Markdown. And what I want is a Markdown preview. So Mermaid, Markdown preview enhanced. Now I'm going to cheat just a tiny bit on this one, because I have one of these already. So I am looking on a different machine real quick, for what I already have. And I don't see it, so we'll just go with it. So Markdown preview enhanced. This will work. This kind of shows you type it here, it shows you it there. So that does some cool math stuff. So I'm going to install this. There's this tiny little install button. I'm going to hit that. It's going to install the extension. Usually goes pretty quick. Usually. Okay. It is installed and enabled globally. So now when I go back to, I'm going to close that. Go back. I don't want to look at that. I want to go to View, Command Palette, and Markdown Preview Enhanced. This is not exactly what I want. Open Preview. That's not bad. No, it's very white. Split right. So I want to put that over there. So now I've got like one side I'm typing, the other side I can see what it looks like. That's what I want. Okay. So this is where I'm actually going to start. So I think, what am I? I'm 15 minutes in and we're getting started. But we've got VS Code installed. We've got Git installed. I left that up. Launch Git Bash. I don't need that. Okay. So we're good. We're essentially writing code. Okay. So what is 3FO? 3FO, this is the application I want to write. It stands for Threaded Real-Time Form. And I'll get into what that is later. You can see I'm kind of designing this. And then I want to put a link to my YouTube page. So I will open my, this is going to be neat. I'll open my YouTube page. Wonder if I can like see the metrics if I do this right. So I'm looking for WilWa. Oh my goodness, that's not fast. Okay. WilWa. That's definitely not me. WilWa. Coding with WilWa right there. So this is me looking at my own stream, like while I'm streaming it, which is very strange. But I want the link just for like the channel. I don't know if I want that to load. It seems like it would get dangerous. Yeah, so I want this link. Oh, if it stops. I don't want Louis Vuitton. I mean, I have nothing against Louis Vuitton. Is that right? That's not what I would have expected. I think I clicked the wrong thing. Okay. Home. That's just home. This is all going to make a lot more sense in a minute, what I'm up to here. Trust me. I guess I'll just go to playlist. I haven't even created a playlist for this particular one. But we'll just go with this. So I'm going to take this link. And then this thing is really slow. I might put Chrome on here anyway. Okay. So I want a link. I gotta remember, I think you do this. Nope. So here we go. I do not remember how to make a link in Markdown. So how do I find out? First I get the heck off of this page. Wow. Just close that. And go to the Googles. And then Markdown link. Basic syntax Markdown guide. We're going to keep this handy. I want to make a link. Oh, goodness gracious. There's a lot of stuff. Links. Put the text line in brackets, followed immediately. Oh, in parentheses. I was close. Okay. So I want WilWa on YouTube. That's what I wanted. Maybe not as a heading. Right? Okay. What this is. Oh, right. So, what I want to do with this is I am create an enterprise ready application in real time. Okay. That's what I'm going to do. And then stream every second of development. Teach programming. I want to teach the programming of it, etc. I'll just leave it at that for now. Not say what this isn't. I want to do everything on the fly, and that's what I was talking about earlier. I don't want to go, well, I'm getting ready to stream, and I know I'm going to use Markdown, so let me just brush up my knowledge of Markdown real quick, because I hardly ever use it. I mean, I want to show everything. I want to show I had to go search up the Markdown guide, remember how to create a link, and then do it. I mean, that's the idea, because there's a plethora of programming tutorials and that sort of thing. With this, I want to show how does just a normal everyday professional do this stuff. Like your normal everyday professional does not go into work and just go, look, the program's done and there's no bugs. That doesn't happen. So this is more about documenting every single step of what's going on, like down to the nitty gritty, even the mistakes, definitely the mistakes, because you learn a lot from mistakes, and creating a full application, not one of those applications where you go and look it up and people are like, don't use this in production. This is not that. This is going to be totally, completely 100% ready. So having said that, what this definitely isn't is, this is not how to make an application in a timely manner, because this is going to take forever. And that's just part of it. I'm not in a hurry, but I just want to show everything in this step, starting from, I just have Windows 10 on a machine, and we're going to end up with this whole application. That's the idea. So I want to start with that. I think I want to put in just a little section about, usually you call it a development environment. So far we've installed VS Code, and Git. And so far, what we've installed and what we're using is not even Windows dependent. So this might even not be Windows dependent when I'm finished. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So I'm going to save that. And then the next thing we're going to need, a really big part of this, is Visual Studio 2019. That's what I'm going to start work with. So I'm going to get that. That might take a minute to download. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to Google. I know the URL, and I'm going to type Visual Studio 2019. And there you go. Download Visual Studio 2019. So this is Microsoft's Integrated Development Environment, IDE. This is what you use to write code. I mean, it's one thing you can use to write code. This is what I use to write code most of the time. I also use VS Code if I'm writing like JavaScript or YAML or all kinds of other stuff. Or I might use Eclipse if I'm writing Java. There's different IDEs, but I'll get into that. But I want to get this download going. So there's different versions of this. There's Community, Professional, and Enterprise. Professional is what most people would use like in their everyday work life. Enterprise is if, it's a big company and they're doing some pretty crazy stuff. And then Community is free. It's open source, or it's free for students, open source contributors, and individuals. So we can just get this. And there's really no restrictions. There's some things you can't do in it, which are like way past what we're going to be getting into, at least for a long time. So we're totally fine there. And even this pops up and they want to know, what are you using this for? What's your email address? And you can say, no, thanks, and just save it. So, it's free. So I'm going to go to my downloads again and get this moving. I got VS Community, blah, blah, blah. Download, installs the installer, which is weird, but before you get started, we need to set a few things up, and so it's going to do some stuff. So we need to install Visual Studio 2019. If you want to follow along, that's what I'm doing. And I kind of didn't want to spend a lot of time talking and then a lot of time watching progress bars. So this is a little disjointed, but if you're following along, you're going to want to do what I'm doing. So, and you'll totally be able to follow along. But while this is installing, a little bit about me. My name's Will, and I've been working in IT for, oh my goodness, like 25 years, in the IT field. And I've been writing software for probably 20 years. I've been writing software with developer as my job title, for about 15 plus years. So, I'm going to write this program, in C#. C# is a programming language that was made by Microsoft. And C# came out, it was around 2002. Let me look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure. We'll just look up C#. Bing. Okay, so the C# programming language on, I really don't know why I don't like Bing so much. First appeared in 2000, 20 years ago. So it's been around. I actually started when .NET is what C# runs on. The verbiage is a little loose there, but I'll tighten it up later. But when .NET first came out, there was Visual Basic .NET and C#. I started with Visual Basic .NET, and I actually started with it when it came out commercially. Like I didn't play with the beta or anything, but I actually went to the Comp USA store, which I don't even know if Comp USA exists anymore. But I went to Comp USA and bought, let me see if I can find it. I bought Visual Basic .NET 2002. Pretty sure. Yeah, there it is right there. I bought it in a box. Just like this. This is exactly what I bought actually, and it was way more than $20. It was way more than $26. But yeah, you got Visual Basic .NET, you got a bunch of discs. It actually came with a bunch of really cool posters, which I never really did anything with. I think I might still have them. Then I'm pretty sure at some point I also picked up C++, but I never really touched C# until a little later. Not too much later though. But I'll get into it, but you can write .NET, and I mean here's 3 languages you can write on top of .NET already, and there's more. And once you kind of learn the ecosystem, you're kind of okay. So, but yeah, there's wow, this is a trip down memory lane. Yeah, you got the box, you got all these, you can see the posters right there, you got your discs. Yeah. You got some coupons for probably Code magazine or Visual Studio magazine. They used to print things on paper so you could read them way back in the day. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I've been a professional developer for quite a while. I'm a senior level developer. I definitely know what I'm doing. But part of making this series is I want to really show, because you always see tutorials online where they're like, I'll just throw this together and here's a console app and I add 2 numbers together, and you get the result. And it's like, that's not useful. There's so many other little things that pop up that I just want to do this and kind of go through all of those. Partly I'm hoping it's helpful, but I mean, part of this for me is always just the act of doing this. I find rewarding, even if nobody ever watches it. I don't know if that's easy to explain, but it helps like solidify concepts in my own head too, in some instances. So, but anyway, okay. So we're installing Visual Studio Community 2019. And I'm making a mental note of, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, and this is kind of funny, but I'm going to open this little notepad, and this is going to be my stack. Okay. And right now I want to start the install, and I want to talk about my knowledge. I know what that means. So these are my to-dos. Right now I'm on start install. So what we're going to need, we're going to do ASP.NET and web development. I'm just going to check it and we're good to go. Azure development, Azure is like a cloud service from Microsoft. It's cool, but I don't think I'm going to need it for at least a long time. If I need it later, we can just install it. Python is another language I'm not going to use. Node.js is also, these are all really cool things. I'm not going to need them for this project. Node.js, same thing. It's like a JavaScript server, essentially. .NET desktop development. That's how you make programs like this or like this. It's really cool. I love working with it. I don't get to very much anymore because everything's web based, but I might delve into that with this project, maybe. Desktop development with C++. Universal Windows Platform development. That's the new stuff. Like if you go to the App Store, the Microsoft Store, most of these programs are going to be written with this UWP, Universal Windows Platform. And it's, it's cool. There's mobile development. We might get into that too. Not yet, but that you can use C# and all of this to write programs for your smartphones and for your tablets and that sort of thing. Same thing. Mobile development with C++. Gaming is I'm a gamer. Gaming is very cool. You can do game development with Unity. You can do game development with C++, which that, oh boy, that's a lot of stuff. Unity's way easier to work with, and it's cool. And there's some good games written in Unity. Data storage and processing. Okay, so this is like when you're working with a SQL server, or it's mainly they do. And there's Azure Data Lake and Stream Analytics tools. That's like cloud-based stuff. Data lakes, we're not even going to get close to needing a data lake. Kind of wondering about the development tools. I'm going to leave this off because we are going to use a database, but I don't think I want to use SQL. But I'm torn about that. But I'm going to worry about that later because that'll be part of this process. Data science and analytical applications, not going to need. Visual Studio extension development, that's actually creating extensions for Visual Studio itself. It's kind of like the extension we just installed for the Markdown. Like somebody wrote this, so this will do this, and you can write your own. Office, SharePoint. I think everybody knows what Office is. SharePoint is like a server for Office, essentially. Although a lot of executive types wish it was more than that. And then there's Linux development. Linux as a whole, it's not Windows, but you can set up for Linux development with C++. Then there's .NET Core plus .NET Core cross-platform development, which this .NET Core development tools, ASP.NET and web. I am going to check that. Actually, I think it might have already been checked. I'll have to watch the stream later. I don't know if I checked that or not, but I think the ASP.NET, we're going to try to use ASP.NET Core. So I'll get into that later too. But so there's that. Individual components, I just wanted to look in here. Yeah, so you can see, do they actually tell you what LTS means? I want to look that up because I'm pretty sure Microsoft support. I'm pretty sure it's like lifetime support. Support level LT. What does LTS stand for? Tell us what LTS stands for, Bing. The great and powerful Bing. What does LTS stand? And that's one of the things I want to learn. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually a good Googler. There's such a thing as being a good Googler, and I am. So I want to kind of show some of that too, because that's such a useful skill. Like, I want to know what LTS stands for, and this is a very simple search. This isn't, but you'll see later, like what you're actually searching for. Oh, and actually this will work because I'm finding a lot of stuff not related to what I'm thinking, right? So in Microsoft support, long-term support, boom. So yeah, I found what I wanted. There's a million things that LTS could be. Long-term sickness, local time stepping, London Theological Seminary. That sounds interesting. But I'm like, okay, I'm narrowing that down. I'm talking about Microsoft support, and it says, oh, long time support. So what that tells us is these two have long time support. These two are already out of support, and that's just you probably want to use the one that is under support. And then there's there's a myriad .NET framework versions. I don't even think I'm going to try to use any of them, so it doesn't really matter. Advanced API.NET. I'm just kind of looking at this. It gives you Azure stuff anyway. I really don't care. IIS Express is extremely important. So that's, I mean, clicking these is what click these, but I'm just kind of showing some of the stuff we're getting here. And that's good. English, if you need more, go for it. And then installation locations, I'm just leaving it to the defaults. It does take up some space. So you can see it says it's going to take up a total of 8.62 gigs. And actually that's a lot. I think I set this up as 100 gigs. Yeah. So I'm good. So yeah, install. And that's going to take a while. I have pretty good internet, so we'll see. But anyway, okay. So I'm going to pop that off the stack. Now I want to talk about my knowledge. What I wanted to say about that is I know a lot, and I want to try to share a lot, but I do not know everything. I do not believe in knowing everything. I think I just want to say that because I think that's important. Nobody knows everything. So I'm going to be on here and I'm going to be doing something that seems simple. It's probably going to involve CSS, and I'm going to be bumbling with it. And I mean, and that's, it's a little, intimidating because, I'll get into that a little bit. I was going to say it's, it kind of makes you a little vulnerable. And there's this whole thing about that too. Let me pop that on, or put that on here too. This is a stack, so I got to talk about it now. First in, first out. I was going to talk about imposter syndrome. So this is this idea that people, you feel like an imposter. You feel like this is my job. This is what I do for a living. I've been doing it for a living for quite a long time. But every once in a while, you still just feel like people are going to figure out that you don't know what the heck you're doing and you're going to get fired. I mean, that's basically, I am downloading a lot of stuff. I don't know what kind of, let's see. Yeah, I kind of wanted to get into this later, but I'll just mention I'm running this on a virtual machine. So that's a machine that is inside my actual whole machine, and I was going to talk about that later, but I might have to like play with some of the settings a little bit because my actual computer would be way faster than this. And I don't think it's Microsoft Edge. And it's the fact that it's a virtual machine with a variable size hard drive, so it's actually making the drive bigger as it's plopping all these files on it. So that kind of slows these things down too. But that's fine. Come on. We're getting there. I'm just going to jump ahead because this is ungodly. To just the definition of imposter syndrome. On the good old Wikipedia. Yeah, I've noticed that. I couldn't load MSN. Why can I not? Okay. One thing I can't seem to do is to copy and paste from my computer. So that's something I need to fix. Imposter syndrome. I wanted to talk about that as well. So for real quick for that, part of this too is I've watched a lot of videos of people using computers, using Microsoft products, using Linux, using whatever, and they just get mad at it, and they're like, why does it do this, and all that sort of thing. In this and this is what I actually do. So I want to show, like, don't get mad, just figure out how to change it so it does what you want. Like, don't get frustrated all the time with Visual Studio because it keeps auto completing your parentheses or something. Just figure out how to turn that off. I mean, but that's part of it. I need to figure out how to copy and paste from my main computer to this virtual computer. So that's something I'm going to work on. And actually, pop that off the stack. Show main computer. I wanted to show this real quick. So while this is going, I'm going to just break the fourth wall here. So I have this little webcam that I've had pointed at my giant head. But basically, that's what I'm talking about. So this is my computer, right? I have a 43-inch 4K monitor, and the mic and the keyboard and all that good stuff. And I drink tea out of a bottle because I'm a heathen. But the computer that I'm showing in the stream is this virtual one. So that's I'm installing Visual Studio on that machine, and then I have my main machine kind of around it. Plus, I can see what I'm streaming, so you can get that cool tunnel effect. But that's kind of what's going on. Just a little bit on how the sausage is made, I guess. But I wanted to show that. And then I want to talk about imposter syndrome. So that's what I was saying. That's when you doubt your own accomplishments or talents, and you have this persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. So that's what I'm saying. So I've been doing this a long time. I know what I'm doing. I get paid pretty well to do it, but I still, I'm going to have to look up simple stuff sometimes, and that's okay. I just have to. I have to be okay. So I wanted to point that out because I have to be okay with that, because you can watch tutorials online where people, they've set everything up, they're ready to go, and they don't even type in the code. They just copy and paste it from somewhere. And I could do that too, but I want to show what it's really like. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up. Because pop that off the stack. Because like I'm saying, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And anybody who does say that they know everything is full of it. I very much believe that. So I'm going to close this. Give this. How many of those did I have open? I want to give this a chance. So we are installing Visual Studio Community 2019. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about Threfo, threaded real 3. So I don't three. We'll call it Threfo. Threfo. Threfo is the official pronunciation as of now. I want to talk about what that's going to be. So this is an idea I've had for a number of years with some friends of mine. And it's not a brand new idea. I think Google made something very much like this in the past and just took it down. But what this is most people know what a forum is. You go online and you can talk to other people and you can type stuff. And usually when that happens, you have what is today? You have the date. You have this is our conversation, and then that was written by Will. And then there's a reply to that, and it's on the same line. That's the important part. On this date, someone else named Chuckles wrote, yes, it is, right? Well, first of all, this is going to be, so that's the forum part. Simple enough, right? So the threaded part is that this is a reply to that, so it should appear underneath it. So like a thread of conversation, and then the next one is like underneath that, and so on and so forth, right? That's the threaded part. The real-time part, and this is what was always like one of the neatest things, is what we want is when somebody's replying to you, you can see them typing. So imagine this is you, this is your computer, and this is someone else's computer. So you're replying and you're like, I don't know, you say, you're a jerk, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't say that, right? Well, they just saw that if they were watching, right? Because it showed what you were typing as you were typing it, and then showed you backspacing. And that's probably a bad example because, but that's the idea. And, and then it's like, it's kind of like Slack. You can like type stuff with each other. You could post Giphy images and memes, of course, and all that stuff. But it's like, it's just funner because it's like this real time thing where you're like, it doesn't just say someone is typing and then you wait and then whatever they type showed up. You actually see it as it's going. So that's the real time part. So that's the idea. And then I want to talk about, it's going to use ASP.NET Core. And that is, that's what's called the web backend. So basically that's going to have all the code in it. That's going to like, take the input from the user, save it somewhere, stream it out to the other users so they see it, and that sort of thing. And then the front end, I'm going to use React. That is it's a JavaScript. I would call it a framework. I have to look that up, but it's a JavaScript framework for making a front end, and it's really fun. I like working with it a lot. I'm going to use some kind of data store. I haven't decided that at all. It could be SQL. It could be Post. Is it pronounced Postgres? I don't even know. It could be RavenDB. It could be DynamoDB. I haven't decided yet. We need to store data somewhere though. And I'll get into all that later. So that's a little more up in the air. This is going to be written in C#, and this is going to be written in JavaScript. That's my goal for now. The ASP.NET Core stuff, we could write it in C#, VB.NET, F#, C++. There's a bunch of stuff. But I'm going with C#. The React could be written in JavaScript. It could be written in TypeScript. It could be written in, I don't know. I was going to say like, I guess you could do like CoffeeScript or like a specific ECMAScript version, which we're going to do, but we'll get into that. But basically, I just squirted tea everywhere. But basically, it's going to be JavaScript. And that's kind of our technology stack. So I'm going to say, just kind of explaining some of this. Let's see, I'm going to say that's written in C#, primarily in Visual Studio 2019. That's why we have Visual Studio 2019. The React part is going to be written in JavaScript, primarily in VS Code. So that's why we have that. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's getting there. And then there's a few other things that I do know already. I could put after data store, I would say source control using GitHub, and then I could put the link to the GitHub, which I can get on the interwebs. Oh, Bing. Bing, bing, bing. Yeah, I wonder if I can just... I don't even know how I got to this. See, that's why I don't like Bing. What is this? Circle CI? What the main thing that isn't is GitHub. I did just say that I'm not going to get mad at what my computer's doing. I'm going to figure it out. So we'll get to that. GitHub WilWa. There we go. And then we want my repositories 3fo, as we decided to pronounce it. So we want 3fo. And actually, I'm going to just make that a link, which we just remembered how to do a little while ago. I just did that backwards, didn't I? I knew it. I knew it. No problem, no problem. Okay. So there's a link to the GitHub. And YouTube. There's going to be a YouTube stream. Not regularly scheduled. I'm going to just do this whenever I can. So yeah, click that bell if you want to actually be looking at this live, because I'm not exactly going to be able to keep to a schedule, I think. I'm going to kind of do it as I can. So, and that's done. So it pretty much already opened. And we have Visual Studio 2019. And I'm going to leave that at that for now. I want to save this. And what I want to do, which I don't know if I can, but we're going to try it. So in code, we have a source control, which is Git. And I've made changes to this file called README in the branch called master. I'm going to set all this up later. I think this is good enough for now. So what I'm going to do is actually check this in, which means I'm going to upload it to GitHub. So I'm going to say added README. That's basically what we did. At least as far as, the repository is concerned. And then I'm going to commit it. There are no stage changes. Would you like to automatic? So I'm going to cancel that. So there's a lot of, it's funny, it's stages, but so for Git, first I have to stage my changes. So that now it says these are the changes that I am going to, oh, look at that I'm going to commit. And so I added the README. I didn't actually add it. I started writing README. I'll do it like that. You're going to find that I'm extremely anal. So I'm going to check that in. Make sure you configure username and user email and Git. So yeah, this is saying that I don't have rights to do this, which is, very true. So I need to first set those up. How am I going to do that? In Visual Studio Code, I should say. Let's look it up. So I'm going to Google it. Set up credentials for Git VS Code. And it's like, let's figure out how to do this in VS Code. So that just says go to the terminal and use commands at the command line. Yeah. Yeah. I do have a credential helper. Yeah, that's what I don't understand. I don't see why. I'm surprised it didn't, make sure you configure your user. So it does just want. Okay. And So yeah, I think this is fine. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to tell Git who we are. And I will do that at the command line. And that's this. You do git config global username, global user email. So we might as well start with this. So I got a terminal, which this is just like opening the command window essentially. That's good enough for now. As long as we got git. Okay. So git config, what was it? Global, yeah. Global user dot name is WilWa. That's me. Git config, and you're going to want to set this to you. You just want a name and your email address, and you can kind of put anything you want, to be honest. So this says for Git on this system, I am WilWa, and you can make this like specific to different repositories, but we made it global. So it'll just be for all of them. That just says, this is the person who is checking in the code. And I think it just did it. So I just committed it. What that means is I committed it to my local copy of the repository. It's not uploaded yet. That's what this tells us. So I need to synchronize changes. So this action will push and pull commits to and from origin master. Okay. And I'm expecting this to fail, but we'll see. Yeah, okay. So that's cool. So I have to log in. And so I'm going to type in my password. I guess if you can tell by sound which keys I'm hitting, then I'm in trouble. But I'm assuming that's not the case. So now I've logged in and it should save into the Git credential store. Would you like to periodically run git fetch? Ask me later. And there we go. So now we're up to date with master. If we go look at it on GitHub, man, it was already there too. If we look at it on GitHub, go to my repositories, go to Thrifo. There we go. That's what we typed in. I think it messed up a little bit. This isn't the best. You can see that's got a new line. I wonder if that could be the carriage return line feed thing, actually. That's very interesting. But anyway, so yeah. So that we've uploaded the code. If we look at, I want to go into this more later, but if we look at it, we can look at the branch, and you can see that I updated it 2 minutes ago. So we don't have anything else to look at yet, but I don't know. This file should have a history. Yeah, it has 2 commits. So you can look at the commits on this file. So there's the initial commit. That's where we started. You can click it and you can see this is what was in there. Boom. It just said 3fo, if you remember. And now we look at it, this one, and you can see it now has all this in it, right? So you can look at the history of it. And there's different tools where you could look at like them side by side, like show me the history of this file. Which I don't know how easy that's going to be to do yet. That's why I kind of want to get into that a little more later. But yeah, there we go. We're off to a good start. We have Visual Studio installed. We have VS Code installed. And we have our Git repository set up. And everyone should know how to clone it at this point. You should be able to go up there and grab this file. And I think I did that. I think that's good for this first episode. So I will talk to you next time.